Thank you for joining us on another episode of Borderline Genius. My name is Kenton Grimes, and I will be flying solo today. We are going to talk about some of the sins of the shipping industry that we are encountering. So, this is a PSA, public service announcement telling you please don't do this. Some of the things that I have encountered with people in my conversations include something that we are dubbing country of origin laundering. I want to encourage you not to do this. You should definitely do your laundry, just not launder your country of origin. And by this, I mean shipping something from country A to country B just to have it relabeled with the country B's country of origin on it. So China shipping it to Japan so that in Japan they can slap new labels on it saying that it's product of Japan getting a much lower tariff rate. Do not do that. That is a very bad way to try to save some money. It is going to cause you some very difficult situations if customs were to ever audit and review, simply because you don't have the proof that you made a purchase to anyone in Japan for products made and produced in Japan. Instead, your financial records will show a purchase out of China, and then it would not be hard to trace back the problem after that. Another problem that we are encountering are companies looking to devalue their product without any real reason. So what I've seen are, we'll call them backdoor deals or closed door agreements where the purchase price is normal and the purchase is made. However, the documentation is going to show some sort of discount that was not actually applied. And then the dutiable amount of that product is reduced, thereby saving on duties and tariffs. Again, you don't have the substantiation with the transaction, so that's a very dangerous maneuver to try to pull off. I don't recommend doing that. I think you will find yourself in a precarious situation should you ever receive a customs audit. Another thing that we are seeing is everything in life right now is on some sort of a spectrum. So we're seeing what I like to call harmonized code fluidity, whereas things you might have imported in the past are classified in a certain 10-digit area and are justifiable by using the appropriate general rules of interpretation and customs rulings, due to the desire to find an exclusion or some sort of way to save some money. You slip a new HTS code onto that product, and again, the rudest of algorithms within customs will catch that. It is not sophisticated, it is not desirable, and it points to more than negligence. So if you're getting into the gross negligence and fraud areas, customs is going to win that battle, and it's going to be very expensive for you and your company. So I don't recommend that. Then the last thing I've seen is a change of Incoterms. While there's nothing legally wrong with that, I don't recommend moving your traditionally FOB or FCA shipments to DDP. There's no real benefit there. The party who incurs the duty would be the shipper, because they would become a foreign importer of record, or a non-resident importer of record, if you like that nomenclature better. But the duty is still being paid. And typically in a DDP scenario, what we have seen are foreign companies blatantly abusing the rules and doing some of the things that I mentioned before because they believe there's no repercussion to them. And they're not wrong. There is no repercussion to the foreign entity because they're not held liable under our laws. But you, the consignee, the one who initiated the import, yeah, you're on the hook. That's an unfortunate place to be because you're just trying to save a buck. And if somebody else is doing something illicit and criminal, and you are then thereby complicit in it. So you definitely don't want to hand over that kind of control, and put yourself at risk, both commercially and legally. So I recommend that. So what can you do? Ah, well, there are some very creative things that can be done. None of them are easy. The one thing which is probably the easiest is waiting this game out. And people are doing that with warehousing on the border, whether it's in Canada or Mexico. They're also doing it with bonded warehouses in the US. Um, the air quote reason for easy is that these facilities are filling up extremely fast. So if you haven't already engaged, it is unlikely you will find that space available to you. Now, I've seen other companies waiting it out in Europe and other places, which, if you can do that, it's usually companies that have their own facilities. So that makes some sense. Now, some of the more complex ways around this are tariff engineering. So we know if you have a product that is listed on a Section 232 investigation, the tariff on those, whether it's automotive, steel, aluminum, the tariff rate on those, 25%. Now, 25% is not cheap, but when you're comparing it to the 125 plus 20 plus 25 out of China, well, that's a savings. So you could consider utilizing the engineering of your product, where if your tariff code matches one of those 232 cases, you could engineer so that the aluminum is added to your product or steel is added to the product, and you avoid the reciprocal and you jump into the 232 tariff rate, which is a savings. So there are other mechanisms where we've seen some rulings, and we've assisted customers in getting rulings that have the core essence of the product manufactured in a country that has a reciprocal tariff at 10% right now. Let's just call it Thailand. And that core part of the finished product has the essential character. It is then shipped to China just because of the cost of production is cheaper, and they assemble the final product there. Think IKEA furniture. If the tabletop is produced in Malaysia and they send it to China to have a metal leg set included and fastened and assembled together, the essential character of the table is likely that tabletop. So the country of origin could be, if engineered correctly, could be Vietnam or Thailand, I think was the country I used. And if Thailand is the country of origin and the assembly is done in China, country of origin is Thailand, so you have the 10% reciprocal versus the 125% plus plus plus. So these are some mechanisms that can be done, and utilizing a trade advisory team to help orchestrate and plan a strong supply chain system of processes and validations via the GRIs as well as classification rulings. These things can help you avoid the price pinch that you're seeing. Now, that's about it on the PSA, and I'm sure you do all really want to know, why did we strike a deal with the UK? What's the big deal? If you saw my post on LinkedIn, I mocked it. Let's be honest. I didn't think of it as much of a trade deal. What's made in the UK? Some Bentleys and Aston Martins? Okay. I can't buy one of those. If you can, cheers to you. Um, but I think we as a trade community can look at the trade deal and consider, is this a template for what we can expect from future deals? So we saw the generic tariff rate stay at 10%. We saw there's some discussions about reciprocity with steel and aluminum, meaning there will be a duty-free import of steel and aluminum, or reduced tariff rate anyway, if not duty-free, to a certain level. So we'll see quotas reinitiated, and that's both ways. So the US will be allowed to import a certain amount of steel and aluminum from the UK at a reduced duty rate, and conversely, the same will happen in the UK for US produced steel and aluminum. And then once the quota threshold is hit, it will return to the 25% tariff. Also, we see the same thing on the automotive side. I think it was 100,000 vehicles can come in at a preferred tariff rate. And then once the quota of 100,000 vehicles is exceeded, it will revert back to the 232 rate of 25%. Now, I don't know what this looks like with India or with the EU in general, but it appears the UK has loosened up some of the rules or some of the barriers for agricultural products from the US. Looks like beef and certain things are going to be more available in the UK. And I could see that being a key point in the negotiations going forward with some of these other nations. But that said, I think that's the most interesting part of this deal. It's not that one was actually struck, it's that we have some initial parameters and potentially seeing what to expect going forward. I don't think anybody's excited that the tariff rate stuck at 10%, but it's still better than 125 or 145, depending on how you want to calculate the Chinese rate. Now, I think I can continue talking and chatting with you, but Anthony's not here, and I don't want to be too long-winded. And I miss Anthony, and I want to have some more that we can talk about next week. So thank you for joining me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. And if you're watching this on or listening to this on Spotify, please hit us with some 5 stars. It would be great for the algorithm. That's what all the other podcasters say. So signing off. Thanks for joining us at Borderline Genius. I'm Kenton Grimes.